Most countries carry out economic reform only when they have an economic crisis. Very few countries carry out economic reform when things are good. When you have a crisis and when a new leader is elected, that is when you get the maximum bang for the buck in terms of reforms, change. That's what happens, because then the population is also ready to back the reformer. If you look at under democracy and authoritarian regime, the growth outcome is roughly equal. That you get GDP growth of more than 5%. If you look at which countries achieved that, both did it with half were democracies, half were authoritarian regimes. Under authoritarian regimes, you tend to get much more volatile outcomes. If you have the right policies, you end up getting a boom. If you end up with the wrong policies, you end up getting a bust. So under democracy and authoritarian regimes, the growth outcome, if you look at it, is roughly the same. But under authoritarian regimes, the outcomes tend to be much more unpredictable depending on the whims and fancies of the leader, where you either end up a boom or a bust. Under a democracy, you end up getting a much more steady growth, and that over time compounds much better. You can only spend as much as what your wealth, your per capita income of a country allows you to do so. Sri Lanka's spending as a share of GDP is now under control. Spending is not the problem. We know taxes is the problem. The tax as a share of GDP is very low. At least spending is not a problem anymore in Sri Lanka like it used to be. So that's under control. When a country takes on too much debt over a 5-year time horizon, that country almost always gets into trouble. Either growth slows down because you're borrowing from the future, or you have a financial crisis, because if you make too many loans over a short span of time, then those loans tend to go bad much more quickly. Sri Lanka, in terms of it, mainly because of the government, you have seen debt go up over the last 5 years. Sri Lanka has had a huge success story, which is that inflation was such a massive problem in this country. And because of reining in the monetary expansion and having a good monetary policy framework, now inflation has really fallen in the last few months in Sri Lanka.